Good morning and welcome to today's mayor's press conference here on Monday morning, the 28th, no, the 27th of April. So again, wanted to kind of update you a couple of things, go through a couple of things first, and then we're going to unveil what is our plan for Recover Pensacola. We're going to start by, according to the Florida Department of Health, in Escambia County, there are 457 positive cases of COVID-19 in Escambia County. We encourage everyone to continue to follow the CDC guidelines and take preventative measures and actions, even when you feel perfectly healthy. A reminder, the small business grant deadline. This is the grant deadline for county and city grants, micro grants that were put together through the SBDC. Just a reminder that 5 o'clock today is the deadline for the Escambia County Small Business COVID-19 Recovery Grant, which is a partnership between Escambia County, City of Pensacola, the UWF Small Business Development Center, West Florida EDA, and the Greater Pensacola Chamber. Eligible for-profit businesses can apply for grants up to $2,500 to help them with immediate cash flow needs as a result of a demonstrated economic injury due to COVID-19. The county is funding the grant with a contribution of $100,000, and the city is contributing an additional $25,000 for businesses within the city limits. Details are available at cityofpensacola.com or at sbdc.uwf.edu. Spring Street Road Diet. We have now completed the Spring Street Road Diet between Main and Garden, adding in 46 new on-street parking spaces. None of these parking spaces are metered, so they are free to the public if you come downtown Pensacola. The project has also reduced that section of roadway from 4 lanes to 2 lanes with an added bike share icon to enhance safety by reminding drivers to share the road with bicyclists. This project is a part of our ongoing efforts to create a more bikeable and pedestrian-friendly community while providing additional parking for visitors to downtown Pensacola. We also had the mayor's cleanup, and it shows again that you are busy both in your yards and your houses. The latest mayor's neighborhood cleanup Saturday in the North Hill area collected approximately 89 tons of bulk waste, 1,275 gallons of paint, and 256 tires. Again, this is stuff that would have ended up in the landfill or dumped somewhere illegally, but thanks to the people of sanitation, and thank you for those that participated in the North Hill area, we were able to collect all these things and keep these out of a harmful situation. So very glad and appreciate sanitation. They continue to shine during this COVID contamination. For comparison, last week's neighborhood cleanup in the same area, last year's in the same area, collected 50 tons of bulk waste, 605 gallons of paint, and 280 tires. So while we're going down on tires, that's good. We've picked up more bulk waste and more paint. The next neighborhood is scheduled for Saturday, May 30th. We will get to you. I want to tell you, in the event that you see something, I want to make mention to you, I was made aware of this by Dan Flynn, that again, the airport has certain areas of trees, and if we are told by FAA that we have to cut those areas because they're growing and they're creating flight incursion on the flight path. We have to do that. We don't really have any ability to not comply with that order. It is an operation and a safety concern. So if you see there are about 6 or 7 slithers on almost all the end of the runways, one way or another, we'll have some tree clearing that we need to do. I just wanted to make you aware of what is happening and why that is going on. Again, it's for safety and operation reasons. It is inconsistent with our master plan, and it is also consistent with a requirement from FAA that we keep that encroachment from happening on the field for the safety of all the airplanes that fly there. So we will be doing some cutting of trees at the airport. Please realize that's what it's about. It's, I think, essentially almost every runway, at the end of the runway on both sides, we will be doing some minor tree removal. Also, LifeLock sign up the deadline is this Thursday. Again, this goes back to those of you who received letters in the mail about 1 free year of LifeLock protection services due to the city's cyber attack. That deadline for sign up is Thursday, April 30th. So if you have not done it and you want your free year of LifeLock, you must sign up by Thursday, April 30th. To date, 7,200 individuals have signed up for the service. Remember, this is only for those who receive letter with a code to sign up. Again, this is if you meet certain criteria. When we had the ransomware attack, this applies to you. So at this particular time, if you got a letter in the mail and you've not signed up, you have until Thursday to do so. Otherwise, we ask that you continue to work with us. As we said last week, we created we've moved over a new director and a new department for IT, and we've looked at it for not just information, but innovation technology. So we will continue to work through that to make sure that we've improved our safety and that we don't have this happen again. We've learned a number of things we've implemented, but for those of us that were impacted, we ask that you sign up by the April 30th deadline. I know over the weekend there was a significant amount of discussion about the post office flags. That storm we had on Thursday, I think, tore several of them. We were in the process of getting them replaced. I've talked to Brian Cooper. I believe they should be replacing them, and we actually have flags with the city. I do want to recognize somebody who stepped up and has ordered them, and we will accept those flags and put them into our I guess supply and inventory of flags. But I wanted to recognize Deborah Dunlap. She had gone ahead and ordered them over the weekend. We will certainly work to make sure those flags come back up. We understand how important they are to downtown Pensacola, and we are going to put those back up in front of the post office. And again, we were sorry we didn't see it on Friday after the storm on Thursday, but I know many of you saw it this weekend and appreciate your thoughts and concerns on it. We are going to get on it, and we are going to have it fixed. So those are just some of the things that are happening in the city of Pensacola. The real big thing today that we want to talk to you about COVID as we continue to move forward is the Recover Pensacola, which is really the beginning of recovery. From our standpoint, we have believed for a while now that it is time for us to start coming back and beginning to recover and to beginning to open up. However, we do not want to do anything that would sacrifice safety, and so we are looking to be measured. I've talked to several restaurateurs in the downtown area over this past weekend, and all of them are like, hey, we want to get open, we want to do things, but we want to make sure we do it safely. There's no way we want to crash the system and see the experiences that we've seen in other communities. Certainly a number of them know people in New Orleans and what they've had to go through, and we want to prevent that from happening here. So I do believe there's a way we can reopen, and there's a way we can reopen safely. So I hope at this particular time, Casey, if you're able to pull up the slides and you're able to see what our plan is. Again, as we go to the first slide, again, the goal of this thing is to flatten the curve, to keep the trend going downward, and to reopen businesses safely. On page 1, Casey. Again, we're all trying we have some technical, there we go. Those are certainly our goals as we keep going forward. We want to bring you to a plan that you're fairly familiar with, dealing with traffic safety. All of us are familiar with traffic signals, which are red, telling us to stop, yellow, caution, and of course, green, we can go. We're looking at the same thing. We've a little bit inverted we realize that's not the way the traffic signal normally sits, but we thought it was more important to stay positive on the top, so we are going to do that. If we are in green, that is a continue. That means we continue to progress with the phases of opening up. If perhaps we see numbers change and something happen because of our opening, we're able to immediately go to a hold, which is a yellow. Yellow is where we hold where we are. We don't open up anything else. We wait and see what happens if things go back in a correct trend and we're able to go forward. The worst thing that we don't want to have happen is certainly red. Red is a restart. It means we've got to go back. We may have to contract and pull back on some things and then restart the process. But again, this is all based on what happens with the numbers. We are not going to do any kind of opening without first figuring out where our numbers are. Certainly, as you can see, continue is measurable downward trend of influenza illnesses and COVID-like cases in a 14-day period. If we have a hold, we can measure it by 3-day reversal in statistical trends and in public safety impact. And we can return to green and continue to start phasing on as long as we're moving in that downward trend. If we have to restart it, it probably means a 14-day, 2-week sort of reversal of where we're going, and we'll have to see what happens. We must be in green for us to proceed and continue opening. So our goal is, while we're opening, this is why we may tell you some things about wearing masks and other things that we're doing. That is so that we can begin to figure out how we can comply, and that we ensure you that there are measures being looked at, and there are measures for us to move in a different direction before we get there. So this is proof that we are very concentrated on safety and making sure that we safely open and don't experience any problems like a New York or New Orleans. As we go to the next phase, criteria for phased openings. Certainly a downward trend, as we said before, downward trajectory of documented cases or positive tests. Our healthcare, we want to make sure that all patients, and this comes straight out of the stuff for Reopening America, can receive crisis care and implement robust testing. This basically means hospitalizations. We want to make sure that people are able to get the care they want in their hospitals and that we're not overrun. We have had great capacity in our hospitalizations. So again, we have room, but this means we're watching it. Public safety stability. We feel like, at least from the city standpoint, we feel like 15%, if we are 15% down in fire or 15% down in police, we really go to a yellow. It makes us, we can still do some of the work we're required to do, but it's going to make it very difficult. If we hit 30%, we are in the red. We cannot function and do the necessary things that we need to do. This also has to do with PPE availability and what we need to have available. So again, this is some of our things that we're looking at. These came straight out of the Reopen American. I'm going to talk a little bit earlier. We had hoped on Friday to have some stuff from the governor. My understanding is sometime today, later today, he's gonna introduce his. This is a draft plan, and we will be able to come back, and I'm going to talk a little bit about later, implement anything in here that is dealing with the state, because we want to comply with the state. But this is, I'm going to go through it. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. The framework for public life and business resurgence. Again, this is what we want to see happening. This comes straight out of again, what we're seeing out of the Reopening America. But we are looking to reopen. Our goal is to get things open, to get businesses back out there, to get you able to do all the things that you were doing before this crisis happened. Then I think we go to next steps. We're going to solicit input from Framework and Reopening Pensacola from DOH, medical and business leaders. We have the group that we meet with that is part of the medical professionals. And we also have a group that we meet with, the ES18, that is business leaders. It's the Chamber and Visit Florida and Visit Pensacola, the Chamber and Florida West are all in together with a group that is dealing with business leaders. We're going to consult with the most affected industries, including restaurants, personal services, and hospitals, and we'll collaborate with DOH to make sure that our metrics are continuing to put us in a green position so that we can continue to open. Finally, we're going to come up with distinct steps and guidelines that are going to allow us to reopen, and we're going to maintain an ongoing coordination with the Escambia County, Santa Rosa County, and the state of Florida. So again, sort of what does this begin to look like? Phase one. We're going to be looking for all vulnerable individuals. This will look much the same as what you're seeing in the Reopen America. We certainly are looking for precautions to be taken to isolate for these vulnerable individuals. That's not going to change, probably through phase one or phase two. All individuals at this point in phase one continuing to do social distancing and avoiding crowds of larger than 10 people. All individuals in public, we're going to have our public parks, everything else with recreation. You're going to see some things that we're going to be doing going forward. But we still ask you to be less than 10 people. And finally, all individuals should minimize non-essential travel and adhere to CDC guidelines. As far as employers, what we're still looking to do is to encourage you to telecommute. We're looking for you to return to your work in phases. Minimize non-essential travel and figure out what you can do in closing common areas so that there's less of a chance for people to gather and in spread. Certainly, if you have a number of issues with restaurants and other things, whether it's medical or dental, you're probably going to see instructions from the state that deal with how you properly deal with PPE to make sure that your areas are not open. So things like waiting rooms and stuff, I imagine what you're going to see in the state's plan is they're going to be looking for you to do something maybe a little bit different. So again, these are things that we're still continuing to work on. Business activities, I think this is perhaps one of the things that is happening that you'll be most interested to see. Schools and organized youth activities at this particular time will still be, that are currently closed, should remain closed during phase one. Large venues can open, but based on crowd limits that we are established by the state and the CDC. Again, we certainly understand that there's the ability in phase one to open up movie theaters and some of the other things, even what we're talking to restaurants about indoor dining, but as long as it's limited to 10 people, it's very difficult to see how that makes a realistic open. Now, if the state comes back today with new guidelines and new numbers that allow us to go to 50, it makes it much more practical for us to release. But again, we are trying to figure this out as we move along, and we'll be able to throw whatever the state puts on here. Gyms will be able to resume based on local government instruction. I think that will probably vary from location to location, but over the next month, I think if we're still all in green and we don't have any setbacks, I think at some point we will see gyms in most all jurisdictions opening. And again, one of the things that we saw from the president was bars remain closed. I think that will continue to happen. We still look for senior living facilities and hospitals should prohibit visitors, and they'll have to interact with those protocols. And then we do look at elective surgery. We do look at dental services becoming open. Again, those will be as we are instructed by the state, and we are looking for the state to provide that instruction to us. As we come back and we look at this, some of the things that we see in the city of Pensacola is we clearly understand the need to follow both the federal government and the state government. And we think that we can do this within this plan. But some of the things that we are asking for is we think we as local leaders should be leading. We should be out front. We ask all the time about we don't like preemptions and we want to lead and we want to do things. We believe it is responsible for us as local leaders to begin to put forward plans. So this is one of the plans that we're moving forward. I think while everything 100% may not be agreeable, I do think you're seeing some consistent discussion happen. I know I've gotten together, and I believe Commissioner May is on with on this viewing, on the team's viewing. I know I've also talked with Commissioner Bender, and I thought he wrote a very excellent article in the his editorial was very good. I think as they move forward this week, you're going to see some things happen and open up. But I think everyone is trying to move forward with a measured reaction in how we open up. And I think at the end of the day, we as locals should have a plan. And I want to be very clear in our plan. I talked to several county commissioners. Jack Mariano and I talked specifically from Pasco County. He was working with Bill Truex. I want to know, how do we get open? Because obviously some parts of the state are significantly impacted while other parts aren't. Well, I told Jack, I said, hey, we need to be out there providing our own framework so that we can show the governor that we can do this responsibly. What you see before you is a very well thought out process. I really appreciate the time that's gone into it from the City of Pensacola's employees and leadership. And I think at the end of the day, this is an idea that we can manage this on our own, that we believe opening should be based on what you experience in your regional area, and that we have the ability to do this with self-determination. But we are not simply going to open up everything at once. We're going to do it in a very measured way, and I think that can help us move forward. Obviously, everything is going to be pending what the governor comes out, and we believe that this plan is very flexible, that whatever that happens, we will come out there and be able to apply it to what we can do here locally, but we think we can put the governor's plan in there once we see it, and we'll be ready to move forward. So again, these are some of the things that we've looked at, but we believe, local government should be looking to lead. And so in this process, we've tried to put together a plan that shows we can lead. It shows we can open up and we can begin to restore our economic viability, which is very important. But we're going to do it in a way that does not impact and expose us to a potential hotspot. A couple of things that we're looking for Friday, and again, these are totally dependent upon what the governor comes back at, but there are some things that we think that are important. Recreation that we've talked about. From our standpoint, Friday, barring that it's not any of these actions will be inconsistent with the governor, we believe with recreational, we'll be opening everything back up sort of that we've closed down. We'll be opening back up our tennis courts and restoring nets to tennis courts in the city of Pensacola. We'll be putting basketball goals back on our basketball courts and having those back up. And at this point, it's looking like we're going to open up playgrounds and playground equipment for usage. Now, again, please understand, parents, that those things, there's no ability to clean those. We ask you to use them, at your own understanding and what you need to do. We highly encourage you to take wipes and try to wipe as much as you can as what your child deals with. But I hear you, several of you have emailed me about the importance of getting your kids back out there and how challenging it is being cooped up. I live right next to or down the street from Dunwoody Park. I see it. I see kids coming in the park, but I don't see any of them playing on the playground equipment. I think that's been a great thing that we've seen. We've asked you not to do that, but we understand that at this point we'll be coming to a point where we want to be consistent. The playground equipments in the county have remained open, so we're going to try to be consistent and move that to happen in recreation. We are looking at some other things. We certainly believe, as we've heard, that the governor will come out and allow for our medical people and dental people to come back to work at this point, and expect those openings. There will be protocols that you will be required to work with, and we believe the state will put those in, and we certainly look to that. Several of you out there have talked to us about if you're in cosmetology, dealing with hair, nails, a variety of things, personal beauty. And again, from our standpoint, we are looking to the state and we have asked them. I know there was a lady here that had worked with several groups. I sent her information. She talked to me about that Alabama had given guidance. I sent that information on to CFO Jimmy Petronas, and I expect that some way or another in the state program, this will be provided to you. I'm sure, however it happens, there will be a sort of an expectation of PPE, personal protective equipment that you'll be using, a mask or whatever it is. I don't know, but I'm sure it will be outlined in their plan. So again, these are some things that you don't see in our plan, but I do think will get covered. I think when we look at restaurants, my expectation, and I talked to several restaurant owners over the weekend, again, I think we're going to be looking at opening up outdoor seating and allowing for outdoor seating, compliance with something that comes out of the governor's office. But in this particular time, with only 10 people indoors, I'm not sure how viable indoor is going to be, but we certainly will open up and looking for restaurants to be able to open up to 10 people inside. But again, we really highly encourage outdoor seating, outdoor opportunities for people to eat outdoors. I know many of us as families, the weather's been great. The opportunity to eat outdoors, take advantage of some of that. And again, if we can reopen and we don't see any changes in our statistical data, then we can continue to keep open. And like I said before, this is a process. This is the only thing that's going to open. But I think on Friday, we've got to bring it open small, and we've got to see what we do. We got to continue to statistically measure, and through the month, we'll be doing that. There are a lot of things on our plate as we get to June. I think if everything goes great and we're all in green, then maybe we can go to phase 2, and we have plans for phase 2 and phase 3. But much of our plans in phase 2 and phase 3 are not complete at this time, other than we have them, similar to what the president has talked about. But again, we haven't put any of our bones on there yet, not knowing what we experience out of phase 1. So at this particular time, we're organized with a phase 1 and a system that we can measure and let the community know that we're safe. If we do both of those things, we think this is a way that local governments, again, it's not just limited to Escambia, Santa Rosa County. We believe that other local governments can take this same strategy, and based on their own experiences, they can move forward and begin to see opening. That's a little bit about it. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Please ask away.
The first question is from John at Studio 850. He said, does the city anticipate a reduction in local option sales tax, and what impacts will it have on the city budget?
We've been budgeting already. We do expect that to have an impact. We do expect all of our variable taxes to have an impact. We're adjusting those things, and we'll be making adjustments to our expectations. But at this time, we don't know what that number totally is, because we haven't seen the numbers come in for March yet, and much less April. But I do think we're going to have to rebudget some things. All of our budget hearings have been going on right now, and we are challenged. But again, we're going to continue to do the things we've been talking about. All the things we're doing are mission critical at the City of Pensacola. We're going to keep focusing on those. We may not be able to do some things we had hoped to do that would be some extras. Those may be sacrificed because of what we've experienced with COVID, but we do believe we can move forward with a lot of initiatives.
Next question is from Laura Hussey. Are there any numbers yet on how much revenue the city has lost from businesses being closed? And a similar question regarding cancellations at the Bay Center and Sanger. Any idea of the impact on revenue and tourism revenue?
And again, those are, I think all of those are based on, typically, you only have to file the sales tax till the month after. And so at the end of May here, the end of April, we'll just start to know what happened in March. We won't know what happened in April until June. So at this point, it's kind of hard to figure out. The one thing we have some more quantifiable numbers, are the numbers at the airport. However, the good news is the airport received money to deal with some of the financial difficulties it's having. Now, we did have a little bit of we have no problem, and we didn't argue the formula. We think the formula was very fair. However, we do believe there were some misapplications of the City of Pensacola into that. One of the things that is measured and affects your amount of money is your unrestricted cash. Obviously, we have a lot of things happening with some cash and projects that we are on the books on. Some of those appeared to have been counted into that unrestricted cash, but they are restricted. So we have asked the federal government to go back and recalculate based on the correct numbers, and we have sent that in. But other than that, we do expect that the monies coming from the federal government will help maintain our airport, just as they sent out to all municipal airports across the state and across the country. So in that regard, that's probably our biggest down position at this particular time. Again, we feel like at this particular time we have the budget set. We have most of our revenues have come in where we want them to be, and we think we can remain consistent. We do think that next year's budget, we may not be able to execute some plans we had expected to. We'll just take it. I think everybody understands that. We really wanted to open up community centers over the weekend. Things like that may not work in this budget, but we'll come back. If we're able to get back the economy building strong, I think we'll be back the following year. So again, there are things we may lose, but at the end of the day, we've done what we needed to do. We've maintained and we've moved on. I think all businesses are having to deal with that same philosophy to look at everything internally. And I can tell you, this year's critical budget, we are unturning every stone that we have on what we do, and trying to keep exactly everything that we're doing at this point not impacting mission,